if we want to execute something, we have to do something like docker execute -it, and the container ID is something that we have to give. So this is what we do on a running container, right? So we also have seen like the Docker containers are independent. When we run an image, the Docker container will be independent of other container that is actually working on the script. So today, till now, what we have learned is we learned how to create a container from an image, and we also know container is a replica of the image. Image is a blueprint which says like which is used to create a container. Okay, so now today we are going to see how to create an image and how to use that image which is created by us to, and we will try to convert that image to a container. So before that, we need to understand one thing. So without a container is basically a blank hardware, or you can consider it as a box with no software installed in it. Let's say I have my laptop with me, so it is not configured with any OS. It just have the hardware that is present with me. So there is no OS that is installed on it. There is nothing installed on it. So it only has the capability, like it has the hardware within it. When we install some software, it can adopt that software which is installed on it. Let's say if I want to install Linux on this, I should be able to install it. Or if I want to install Windows on this, I should be able to. If I want to install Mac, I should be able to install the software that is the user want to actually like install on the hardware. So that is basically a container. It is an empty box which doesn't have anything. It doesn't have any OS, it doesn't have any software, or it doesn't have anything within it, but it has all the capabilities within it, so that it can take any OS or any software, it can install or it cannot adopt in it. So that is what basically container is. So image says, this image that we are going to create says what is the software that I want to install in that container. On top of the software, what is the tool that I want to run, or what is the executable file that I want to run, or what is the web app that I want to run. So that should all be specified by the image basically. Okay, hope you got this. I'm just repeating it again. So you should consider a container as an empty box which has the hardware that is sufficient to actually acquire any kind of software within it, or it supports any kind of installation of the OS or anything. Now, if we consider a container, it is an empty box with the sufficient hardware within it. So now the image that is present over here says, it not only says what is the web app that needs to be run, it also says what is the software that needs to be installed, and on top of that software, what is the web app that needs to be run. So everything will be specified in some set of lines on this image file. So on this image file, we will have some set of lines which says what is the OS that needs to be installed, and what is the software that needs to be installed, and what is the web app that needs to be installed. Now we understood how to actually create a container from the image. So it is simply docker run and the image name, and it has some parameters like -it. We have seen all these commands in the last class itself. It has something like docker run -it, which specifies the inputs that we want to give it to it. So there is something like -it. With this, we will be able to see what is happening on the command line of that particular container. Okay, so we have many things like that. So docker run image name. So once we give the image name, it basically creates a container on, and it installs sufficient software. So if you see docker run hello world is something that we have run, what it actually done in the background is it created something. It created a container with the OS that is specified. It can be Windows OS. On top of it, there is a command line that ran with, and it gave the output like hello world. So that is what basically image is. So docker run, we know like how to create a container from the image file. Now we need to understand how to actually specify what OS needs to be installed in this image file, and what are the tools that we need to run our web app, and that also needs to be specified in this image file, and also what are the other files that are needed to install, that needs to be installed on this container, so that the app that we want to run successfully runs in this container. Okay, so that is all what is intended for today. So the whole concept over here is we are going to learn how to create an image file. We also know how to create a container from the image. That is already we have already seen that in the last session. So in this session, we will just focus on how to create an image file. Okay, So let's start learning that, and I'll also show you how to create that. For that, what I'll do is I'll simply create a new inside this. I'll create something like Docker projects, a folder with name Docker projects I'm creating. So with multiple projects, I'll explain you the detailed instructions on how to create this image file basically. So I'm creating Docker projects. Inside that, I'm creating a folder with name project1. So inside this, I'm creating a folder with name Docker. So let me call it as project1. Okay, so this is my project1. So inside this project, I'm going to create a simple image that is used to create a container. Now let's quickly look at how to create a simple image file from this. So basically we need a single file that needs to be created. So for this, I'll go ahead and use Visual Studio to develop that image file. So I'm using Visual Studio Code. I'm just simply open this and redirect to this particular folder. So let me also open our PPT as well once. Okay, so let that PPT open over here. So the first thing I have to do is just go to that particular folder where we want to create the project. So if you go to the file, click on open folder. So once you click on this open folder, redirect to the folder where you want to create your project. Let's say I have this D drive.